we're gonna start. So thank you everyone for registering for today's joint webinar with Unilever and Bstock. Today we're going to be talking about the end of slow-moving and obsolete goods and how Unilever minimizes their excess inventory and achieves their sustainability goals. So here's an overview of today's agenda. We're going to have some quick introductions. We're going to provide an overview of who Bstock is. We're also going to talk how Bstock supports global sustainability initiatives for our partners. We're going to provide an overview of our partnership with Unilever. Unilever are then going to talk in more detail about their global waste and reduction strategies. And finally, we'll close with an audience Q&A session. So as we're going through the webinar, please do draft your questions and submit them at the end, and we'll have some dialogue and talk about your questions and provide some answers. So firstly, I'm Giorgio Vitale. I'm Head of Business Development for Bstock, covering the EMEA region.
Hello, everyone. Oh, sorry. This is Nazli. I'm working as the Global Inventory Optimization and Business Space Manager in Unilever. And thanks for having me in the call, Giorgio.
Great. Emil?
Hi, and my name is Emil. I was previously the European Business Waste Lead from a customer development perspective. And so thank you, Giorgio, for having me.
And I'm Tim Dupuy from the account management group here at Bstock. Excited to talk to you all today, and even more excited for the audience to learn a little bit about some of the really inspiring work that y'all have gone on over there at Unilever.
Fantastic. And what a panel we've got for today. So who is Bstock? So Bstock is the world's largest business-to-business auction platform. And we connect sellers, both manufacturers and retailers, to thousands of pre-approved business buyers globally. We effectively help our clients move excess inventory through a dynamic marketplace solution. So how do we do this? So firstly, this involves digital transformation, and an online marketplace addresses and supports loss prevention initiatives. We create brand control, ensuring we can manage channel conflict. We create operational velocity and efficiencies through the marketplace solution. Through the auction strategies and the buyer demand, we heavily rely on our data insights, and through that analysis and the correct strategies, we're able to enhance sustainability initiatives. So thinking of that theme around how Bstock enhance global sustainability with our partners, as we all may be aware of, retailers, manufacturers, legislation is already here. It's coming in place globally. We can't destroy inventory. We need to measure what we do, and we need to do this consistently. Having surveyed, our buyers recently, nearly 65% of those consumers surveyed would change their shopping habits to reduce the negative environmental impact. And if you hold that thought, we're going to revisit some of those statistics. But to put this into context, considering Bstock as a global provider, in 2020, over 120 million items were sold across the platform. So it's huge volumes. And if we was to aggregate that together, that is 400 million pounds in weight of merchandise sold. It's the equivalent to 29 Eiffel Towers. Through those initiatives, over 5 million items have been saved from landfill. That's more than the population of Los Angeles. And again, to put this into more context, considering this sheer volume of inventory, 8 million home and garden items were sold. That's enough to fill the seats at Madison Square Gardens over 384 times. And again, what our last statistic on this slide, it equates to over 50 million units of apparel were transferred through the marketplace. So that's enough to provide everyone in Spain a new item of clothing. And I could certainly do with a new shirt. So here's an overview of the partnership with Unilever. How did this happen? So as we've mentioned, through digital transformation, enhancing those sustainability initiatives globally, we're going to talk about how Unilever has become a role model for sustainable business. Waste reduction, embracing the circular economy is becoming, first and foremost, even more important in supply chains. And when we think of that, this is a case study, more and more CPG, FMCG companies are wanting to adopt these best practices. I'm going to now hand it over to Tim, who's going to provide more context on the relationship today.
Yeah, thank you, Giorgio. So before we kind of get to the main event here, where you'll learn from Nazli and Emil on, what Unilever is doing throughout the entire organization to, help save our planet. Just wanted to kind of set the stage with how our partnership, I guess, first began and how it's evolved over the past 18 months. We first engaged with the Unilever group in North America back in December of 2019. And the goal was really to create an alternative channel to move excess inventory that meets all of their operational and financial goals. We leveraged our private marketplace solution to do that, launched in 2019, starting with a single facility in Newville, Pennsylvania. You can kind of see the evolution throughout the last 18 months, which was really driven by business goals internally at Unilever. So as we look to expand, we kind of asked ourselves the question, which warehouse is housing the most excess inventory, and made our decisions based on that to relieve that excess inventory and really bring a second life and ultimately save it from going to landfill. Throughout the balance of 2020, continued the expansion in North America and then launched in Europe, starting in France last November. And we're excited to see this partnership kind of continue to evolve. Looking down below here, just to give you an idea of the scale of what we've been able to do with the partnership to date, we can kind of see the growth in terms of total auctions sold. So each individual auction, we work collaboratively with the Unilever team to group inventory to try to maximize price for them. So to date, we've sold over 1,100 auctions. And then more importantly, and I think why Unilever has been so successful on the BStock platform, is their consistency and kind of commitment to continually put inventory through. What that's been able to do is drive significant demand. So in the Unilever private marketplace, we've got over 7,000 approved business buyers who are actively participating in these auctions, and they're bidding and winning this inventory. That's covering 29 countries throughout North America and Europe. So when we think about the scale of that, it really is in the buyer base that's enabling us to move through this inventory collectively. And I will kick it back to you, Giorgio.
That's great insight, Tim. And on that point of the approved business buys, it's a core component of the success for a B2B marketplace. And we'd like to, on this next slide, we're going to share some more insights, having surveyed, the buyers from the marketplaces. Now, interestingly, on the left, you can see over 75% of our buyers consider sustainability to be very important or extremely important. So a high number of the buyers are already focused on these initiatives. Over 65% of our buyers say that shopping sustainably is either very important or extremely important to their own customers. So when you consider the statistics we shared earlier, when you think of those volumes that are effectively moving in the secondary market, this is a really important point. Over 90% of BStock buyers find it important to work with companies that value sustainability and sustainability business practices. So, as we transition and move forward and we review reverse supply chains, we can see from surveying our buyers, this is at the forefront of their minds, particularly when they're sourcing and acquiring inventories. So I'm going to hand it over to Nazli, and she's going to provide an overview and introduction to Unilever.
Thank you, Giorgio. So a quick introduction to Unilever. We are a global company with a turnover of over 51 billion. And we sell our products in nearly every country in the world. We make many of the world's favorite brands, and every day 2.5 billion people use Unilever products to feel good, look good, and get more out of life. And you might recognize some of our brands across food and refreshment, personal and home care. And of course, we are not only making world's favorite brands, but also proudly leading sustainable business initiatives for quite some time. Unilever's purpose is to make sustainable living commonplace, and it is embedded in our history and culture. 11 years ago, in 2010, we made bold and progressive commitments through the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan. It was a first of its kind in terms of its scope and ambition. And we set out 3 big goals to transform Unilever's business across the value chain, which are improving the health and well-being for more than 1 billion, reducing our environmental impact by half, and enhancing the livelihoods for millions. And those goals are underpinned by over 7 time-bound targets, such as reduce waste from manufacturing, reusable, recyclable, or compostable plastic packaging, or simply reduce packaging. After a 10-year journey, although our halving the waste associated with the disposal of our products by 2020 performance was not green, we made an extremely successful progress and achieved 34% reduction in 10 years. In 2021, we launched the Unilever Compass with the belief that sustainable business drives superior performance. Unilever's vision is to be the global leader in sustainable business. And as I mentioned before, our purpose is to make sustainable living commonplace. Thus, Unilever declared 5 strategical choices. Improve the health of the planet is one of the main drivers of these commitments. And after the launch of the Compass, Unilever continues to stay committed to transparent sustainability reporting. That's why in this slide, under waste-free world pillar, you'll see extremely tangible ambitions. Here, I would like to draw your attention to halving food waste in our operations by 2025, because besides being very ambitious, this one is very much linked to my focus area, and this is where our collaboration with Beastock is contributing immensely in terms of sustainability. In other words, it's the translation of what we are trying to achieve in the Unilever Compass agenda. So who is behind this great work? Who is helping Unilever to achieve these ambitious commitments? It's very much worth to mention here that within Unilever, we have a large cross-divisional and cross-border community, which is called Waste Heroes. And we are really working hard to improve the health of our planet and deliver our waste reduction goals. Speaking specifically of our efforts for waste reduction, our focus is on the excess inventory. If we keep excess inventory, it's inevitable to generate waste. Keeping that in mind, the main actions that we take can be grouped under 2 pillars: preventing the generation or stopping the generation, and accelerating or ensuring the outflow of the excess inventory. Centralization of our production plans so that we tolerate zero production of excess inventory is one of the 2 main actions to improve our planning excellence in terms of waste reduction. And the second one is our continuous efforts to improve our forecast accuracy by bringing new generation, digital and tech-based solutions. And whilst we do our best to stop excess inventory generation, we are very much aware of that for one reason or another, we'll have always a certain level of excess inventory on hand. Thus, leveraging the advantage of being a multinational company and trying to find alternative channels are crucial to accelerate excess outflow. At that point, Beastock has been a great partner in unlocking channel expansion for excess so far. We managed to sell 14 million units of products till now through Beastock. In other words, altogether, we saved these good products from ending in a landfill as waste and gave them the second life chance.
Nazli, these are fantastic insights. And I have a quick question for you. As Unilever continues to implement its sustainability initiatives, what have been the best learnings, to date?
That's a good question. So let me think. Considering that we are trying to manage a very complex network, like we are selling 20 million tons of finished good products per annum, or operating 300 factories and partnering with over 48,000 suppliers. First of all, it's not an easy job. We should accept it. And in my point of view, what works best, besides having sustainability in the heart of the company's purpose, is setting very tangible goals so that all functions, every decision we make, everyone we work with, all are directly linked to this goal. And secondly, we believe in continuous improvement, and that there is always a better way of doing things. Working with this mindset in the sustainability area is crucial to me. We have to be open and volunteering to change. You cannot expect different results by doing the same things, right? Yeah. Thus, we are always open to out-of-box ideas and work with anyone who might help us to make our world a better place. That's how and why we started our partnership with Beastock, which is one of the things that I'm most proud of. I hope that answers your question.
It's great, great response, and really helps bring to light the importance of that partnership and testing and measuring alternative strategies for the better. And on that point about the strengths of the partnership, I'm going to pass it over to Emil, who's been fundamental in the developments across Europe between Unilever and Beastock to date.
Well, thank you very much for that, Giorgio. So yeah, from a commercial point of view, Beastock really offered a great solution for us, and most notably because selling off excess inventory is often very intensive in terms of man hours that have to be put in, and in terms of getting everything organized across borders and to sell it off as fast as we can. It takes a lot of time. So in the current process or regular process, what we would normally do is to contact all of our liquidation channels and then initiate different negotiations with each channel, which of course takes a lot of time. And Beastock really offered a great solution because they changed the narrative of that complete negotiation and really place it on their website, and then the possible buyers negotiate with each other because of the auction model. So not only does this give us a better price than we would normally get, it also ensures that we can sell a lot more volume to a lot different types of buyers that we would normally not connect. And then secondly, what's also very important for us is, of course, to get a good cost of goods recovery on the products that we sell. So when we write them off, we of course get 0% recovery on the cost. When we donate them, in a good case, we can get 20%. But on Beastock, we can get 55 to 200% of cost of goods recovered. So that's really great results that we've been seeing. Then also, it's very convenient for us because Beastock ensures that they're all pickup transactions every auction that we sell. So instead of having to transport the goods ourselves across borders and to different countries, Beastock actually facilitates that they're picked up by a third party and dropped off at the end buyer. So for everybody, that's very convenient. And then as I mentioned, of course, the size and speed is crucial to us, especially when it comes to this type of good. And with Beastock in Europe now, we can sell over 35,000 consumer units a week in about 8 different auctions and still get over 8,000 euros of turnover in doing so. And then last but not least, as Nazli mentioned, of course, it's always a lot better to sell off excess inventory than to write it off, because it's a lot better for our planet and helps us very much in our goals there.
Emil, fantastic insights again, and you raise a really important point about those legacy processes and those hidden operational costs and dwell time through those negotiations and that sale, that legacy way of closing those transactions. So quick question for you, how has the collaboration with Beastock enhanced your sustainability goals?
So I think it enhanced our sustainability goals the most, in the sense that we typically only contacted the channels that we knew about, and Bstock really opened up the market to us to a lot of different buyers, hundreds or maybe even thousands of possible buyers that we would normally never get into contact with, because a big company like us doesn't typically have the contacts of smaller companies who are also interested in our products. And then, as I mentioned, speed with which we can sell the products on Bstock has helped to do this in a continuous manner, instead of having to push it on and on and on until we've got enough excess inventory to sell a big deal to somebody, for example. So that really helped us a lot.
Yeah, no, great point again. We talk about this a lot, particularly from a B2B marketplace perspective. Access to that network of buyers quickly and ensuring those pre-approved buyers are qualified is a lot of value in accessing that quickly. So I have a question for both of you. Looking towards the future, how do you see the relationship with Bstock evolving in the next 6 to 12 months?
So from a commercial point of view, I think that the results we've been getting right now are very much encouraging to go above and beyond what we've been doing until now. And so to expand into as many different countries as we can. And I know that we are doing the best we can to make sure that we get as many countries on board as we can. And so once we in Europe, then once we have all the countries on board, I think that will offer a lot of new opportunities to grow in this partnership. And then if Bstock manages to grow their network or your network at the same time of possible buyers in those countries, then I think the options for this partnership are limitless.
And to add up what Emil commented on, from global planning perspective, we are using how the collaboration of Bstock with North America and Europe as the best practice. And I'm trying to get all the countries that I'm working with know about this best practice. And even though it's not with Bstock, we are encouraging them to find these alternative channels or alternative solutions to sell the good stock, but excess stock for us, because this is the good thing to do for the planet. Yeah,
no, great. You both raised again some really really important insights there. So moving on the partnership strengths, we have an audience poll. So we want to make sure everyone's still with us, everyone's awake. We've got a quick question we'd like you to answer. So we're gonna give you a couple of seconds here to review that and submit your thoughts. When you're ready, Tim, I'll move to the next slide and we can have a discussion about the results.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what we get back for responses here. I think I'm going to probably put you on the spot, Giorgio, and make you guess what we're going to see from these results. But I'm thinking we'll have a nice balance. And I think it's important to note that a lot of these different strategies, that there's not one way to do things. So it's likely going to be a combination of these that works for each business, and making those decisions dependent on, to Nazli's point, what your business goals are. So I think we have sufficiently given enough time for votes to come in. What do you got for us, Giorgio?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting question. So considering those full operational costs, those hidden costs, if I was to make an informed guess here, I think from a write-off, I'd estimate around 5%. For recycle, I'd go for around 10. For the donation, hitting obviously permitted caps, I'd say another 10, and then combining, offer inventories to clearance and other strategies, I'd say that aggregates to around 25%. So adding those numbers, I think I've got to 100% there.
Yeah, you weren't too far off, and I am impressed with your quick math. So that all netted out to 100% there. So well done. Yeah, you weren't far off. So I think we have some fellow waste warriors in the audience, Emil. So seems like for the most part, the audience today is definitely planning for this and has some strategies in place. So the results came in 55% at the other inventory clearance channels. 13% other strategies, 11% donate, 4% recycle, and still around 18% are reporting write-off, which potentially could lead to business waste, like we've been talking about reducing. So I think, like we said, it's likely a combination of a lot of different things that's going to work for your business. Each channel you decide to use will essentially have a different cost associated with it. So it's balancing what your business goals are operationally, financially, and putting a strategy in place. But I think most importantly, having a strategy in place is paramount as we kind of move into the future here.
Again, Tim, really great, great insights, and I wasn't expecting, some of those numbers to be returned, but considering what we're talking about today, this is really enhances the importance of the partnership that BStock has with Unilever, and I suppose shines a light on how we add significant value through the data. By aggregating those points, we can create the best strategies for when is the most optimal time to release and offer inventories for clearance, in addition to obtaining value back, as Emil mentioned before. So some really interesting insights there. So again, thank you everyone for responding to the poll. As we move through, I'd just like to provide a summary and the key takeaways from what we've discussed so far. So having introduced BStock, we are the largest business to business auction platform, and through our marketplace, when we're connecting our sellers, both manufacturers and retailers, with thousands of pre-approved business buyers across the globe. This is it's enhancing sustainability globally, and through that digital transformation and utilizing the value of a diverse buyer network, we've been able to partner with Unilever, who there is no doubt are acting as a role model in this space for waste reduction initiatives. So we'd underpin this by saying, BStock can partner with retailers and manufacturers on waste management and enhancing sustainability initiatives, ensuring we don't create negative impact on the planet. But secondly, through operational efficiencies, we're moving inventories through the marketplaces. So at this stage now, we'd love to open it up to the audience for a Q&A session. So Tim, I imagine we've had some questions submitted so far, and feel free as we're talking to add your questions to this session.
Yeah, this is thank you to the audience. We've got some great participation, some great questions in here. First one, I think, is probably a good question for Nazli and Emil to answer here. And it's at the core, it's really asking fundamentally how you actually identify potential business waste in your inventory systems. Like, are there tools that you're using? Are there strategies that you're using to identify where potential business waste might be coming from, and then putting that through the back end channels to relieve it?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. So finally managed. From planning perspective, we have real-time visibility on our inventory health. So it helps us a lot to see what's coming in the pipeline, right? And of course, depending on our demand forecasts and current inventory health, we are able to see what are the risky items, hotspot items that might create waste. and together with the inventory aging visibility. And that's where exactly we are collaborating with our CD function, sales function, and try to find ways to sell this stock through any options. I'm not sure, Emil, do you want to add something?
Well, no, I don't have too much to add because we mainly get our input from CD from supply chain. So yeah, when we get that input, we get to work with it.
Awesome. Yeah, great insights. Seems to be the theme of the day. So I'm going to kick this next one over to you, Giorgio. It was the very first question submitted, so I think it's only fair we tackle this one. Is there scenarios where inventory is posted on the BStock network that potentially there isn't a buyer for and doesn't receive any bids? And is there anything that's done at that point?
Yeah, no, great question. And that scenario can happen. There are a number of strategies to find the right buyers for excess inventories. So again, we work very close with the buyers to understand the core categories that they're focused on. So before we go to market, we're focused on building the right strategy to promote and sell that inventory. So if there was a scenario where we did that and we still didn't get the sufficient buyer interest, we then have strategies to reparcel that inventory. So that could be we could involve that by creating a shorter listing, a smaller listing. We could create a larger listing. We could mix it with different types of stock. So there are a number of routes we can use, and there are many variables to factor in, particularly for stock that may not attract the buyers initially. So we test, we measure, and we go again. So great question. Yes, it happens, but we've been doing this for quite a while now. So we use our best practices and data insights to create the right listing strategies as we promote the stock. So I hope that helps answer it.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. Emil, you probably remember when we first started in France, working a lot together on strategy and trying to find the best way to sell it, to actually find a buyer for 100% of the auctions that we list on the marketplace. So that's a big part of this as well. Like Giorgio mentioned, testing and understanding what the market's kind of reacting to and interested in.
Yeah, exactly. So I also think that in the beginning in France, where we were getting our conversion rate was a lot lower than it is now, because we were, as you mentioned, you really like testing out. But now that we've found our way, I think the conversion rate is very good, and we're very pleased with that. So yeah, there's definitely options to keep on looking for buyers there.
Absolutely. Next question coming in here is about kind of the logistics aspect of operating a marketplace, and kind of what's involved there. So I'll actually take that one. We are fortunate to work with some really great freight partners globally. So that could be any number of different partners that we're working with that really help enable the scalability and ease on the freight side of things. And so from a seller's perspective, what's really required is a commitment to fulfill orders in a timely manner so that the buyers are receiving their inventory, in the timelines that we're laying out. So operationally, we try to really fit into the operation that any business may already have in place and not introduce, a ton of strain to that. And so on the reverse logistics side, we're really trying to mirror fulfillment operations that these businesses already have in place. And like I said, leveraging some freight partners to help us do that.
No, great point, Tim. And to add to that, by utilizing those logistic partners, we then create control for our sellers, for our selling partners, because we can embrace, we can effectively deliver all of that requirement through the marketplace solution. So buyers are very clear, on the timeframes, the costs associated with the collection and the movement of the goods. But you're quite right, it all enhances that velocity that Emil was discussing earlier today.
Fantastic. All right, just catching up here. Lots of questions rolling in. So I see a lot of questions too, and I do want to add there are a lot of questions. We may not get to them all, but we'll certainly be taking all of them and trying to respond individually over the next coming days and weeks so that we make sure we get answers out to everybody. All right, one more question here. So this would probably be a good one for you, Giorgio, in terms of how vast is B-Stock's geographic reach currently, and are there markets or regions that are easier or more challenging to operate in as a business in the secondary market?
No, it's a great question, and we operate now across 135 countries. We've been operating for over 15 years in the North American market, and circa sort of 6-7 years now in the UK and the European markets. With regards to delivering our services in new emerging secondary markets, there's no doubt that we're seeing more and more interest from the APAC region, from the South American regions, from North Africa, and from the Emiratis as well. So we are working closely, obviously, with our current partners. We're talking to new prospective partners and mapping the feasibility of operating in those new spaces. What comes with that is a wave of new buyers. So we're very much focused on our international global expansion, and there's obviously a really core business now in the areas we operate in. What that does bring is we see buyers from those emerging markets procuring and exporting inventories. What this tells us is that there is demand for the inventory across the globe. So it's all part of our roadmap to continue providing our services in a global space.
Fantastic. A couple questions also coming in around channel control. I think we can try to address this from a couple of different angles. I think Giorgio and myself will have certainly information about how we do it on the B-Stock side, but for Nazli and Emil, when you first engaged with B-Stock, what types of conversations were happening internally at Unilever, and was there a concern over inventory spilling into markets or to buyers that maybe Unilever may not want that inventory being purchased and resold in?
Well, I can be pretty quick and clear about that. I mean, like, as Unilever, we know that everybody is we encourage everybody to buy our products, and they're very free to buy our products as much as they want. So no, there was no real concern about that. Then secondly, what type of conversation was going on? I think it's the main conversations we were having in different countries were concerning logistics, payment issues, or like how payment flows would run, etc. And once that was all cleared up, I think all the countries were very much enthusiastic to start with B-Stock. So no, I think for everybody it's a very clear and good solution.
Fantastic. And then in terms of, I guess for Giorgio, you and myself, the way that we think about channel control in our solution is through a private marketplace, very similar to what we've developed for Unilever. And so what you're able to do in that environment is control really who is purchasing your inventory and put certain levels of filters in place to ensure it is going to buyers that are approved from yourself as a business. So that can be any number of things. We're vetting, I guess, on a fundamental level that it's a valid, legitimate business as opposed to a consumer transaction. And so any buyer that's entering the network needs to provide documentation and proof of that they are a valid business. So that's kind of the first and foremost filter. And then from there, as a seller on the platform, you have a number of different customizations that you can kind of layer on top of that, again, to make sure you're controlling the channel. And then through a lot of those freight partnerships that we spoke about earlier, we have kind of full transparency and traceability into where goods are being delivered, and documenting that as well, and providing that over to sellers so they have it internally.
Great points, Tim. And to add to that, picking up on the point of transparency and ensuring that we can apply those resale requirements. We can build in those resale restrictions based on those geographies. In addition to that, we can specify through terms and conditions, purchasing terms and conditions, whether inventory can be resold in specific markets, whether it can be resold offline or online. So there are a ton of flexibilities around what we can facilitate for retailers and manufacturers that obviously are very conscious of their brand equity and ensuring there isn't a creation of channel conflict. So we know how important that is, and the platform, the technology, we're very confident that it delivers that.
Fantastic. Rapid fire right back at you, Giorgio. How does the payment work with sellers on the BStock platform? Can you just kind of talk through the financial flow?
Yeah, sure. So it's quite a straightforward transaction. So when we host and we deliver auctions, the cadence can be a couple of days, can be a day, can be a week. However, when we close that out to the highest bidder, the business buyer, they have 48 hours, 2 business days to remit payment, and BStock effectively mitigate risk. So we receive payment from the buyer. That then triggers an automated notification that the goods and the associated shipping, if requirement, have been paid. Those goods are then shipped, and then effectively once the goods are released, we then remit the payments very quickly to our sellers. And payments can be, they can be weekly, bi-weekly, they can be monthly, or dependent on what the seller actually requires. So from a transaction perspective, we use the technology to automate as much of that as possible. And yeah, again, as I mentioned before, no goods ever leave a DC or an FC until payment has been received, and it's all via bank transfer as well. So by pre-qualifying the business buyers, in Europe, we know they're VAT registered. In North America, we know they have their resale certification, and they're aligned to the associate, the relevant state tax laws. So we do all of that due diligence up front to make sure the payment process is as smooth as possible.
Great. I'm going to sneak in a question of my own for Emil and Nazli now. We talked about BStock and Unilever have been working together for about 1.5 years now, and directly in Europe for about 8 months. And I'm just kind of curious, from your perspective, are there learnings that you kind of experienced throughout the setup of the engagement, things that you would do differently, things that you areas for improvement in the future?
So I think one of the biggest learnings I had was also one of the biggest or my biggest fear in the beginning, mainly because you guys were kept on encouraging me to put down low starting bids on the auction marketplace for new auctions, as low as €100 for a truckload, for example. And I was very scared to do that in the beginning, because I thought, I'm gonna get fired if we sell for €100. And but what I've learned is that low starting bid really encourages buyers to get engaged with the auction, start bidding, and once the bidding starts, then people will only start to bid more. And it was actually the €100 auctions where we got the best prices for at the end. So now that was definitely a great learning for me, and I would have done it a lot more and a lot faster in the beginning, knowing what I know now. And secondly, I think, we've learned a whole lot throughout the whole process, but a lot of them are Unilever specific, I would say. But I think it's definitely in terms of also the size of auctions, where we see that for certain products, how bigger the auctions are, the more likely they are to get sold. And for other products, you can see that people are more interested in smaller quantities, for example. So yeah, I think it's a big learning experience on BStock as a supplier, and we'll continue to learn in the future as well.
Great. Nazli, anything you want to add about your experience?
Yeah, so I think for me, the sales part, our sales team and Bstock, they are taking good care of that part for sure. That's why I'm not very involved and not worried at all for this process. But I'm more focusing on, since the launch of Bstock in Europe especially, I'm more focusing on accelerating our internal slow movings or excess inventory identification. Like we are trying to improve our this identification process, how faster we can do it, how better we can do it. I think it was a great motivation for us, because the more you put in Bstock, the more you gain, right? So it helped us to motivate ourselves to identify the items to sell through Bstock faster.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can say from personal experience working with the team at Unilever, we're extremely proud at Bstock to be partnering with an organization like yourselves who really pays such close attention to sustainability and really improving the health of our planet. So I think we're going to close the Q&A for now, coming up on the top of the hour. Thank you everybody for the questions. Like I said, there were a lot of questions submitted, and we will do our best in the coming days to make sure that they're addressed and we're getting you all the information that you need.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tim. Great questions. So thank you. Thank you everyone that submitted them, and we will get back to those that we weren't able to answer today. So as we draw to a close, we've got some resources here to share with you. So we have links to both the European and the North American Bstock Unilever marketplaces. And additionally, if you've got questions that you'd like to ask Unilever regarding, waste and sustainability, we have an email here, waste.heroes@unilever.com. So feel free, to submit those over, and Nazli and her team will get back to you. For more information, about Bstock, we've got a link there, bstock.com marketplaces, which brings forward our our clients and our marketplace solution globally. Additionally, there's also a link. There's a link for sellers to get in touch to it. So if you want to talk about how we could potentially support you and review your excess inventory strategies, please go to that page and have a look at the information and the contact us link. And finally, again, from what we've discussed today, there's my email address. Feel free to email me at giorgio@bstock.com and raise any questions that you have regarding today's subject. So to close, just want to thank you all again for attending. We really appreciate you registering and dialing in. We will be sharing a recording of today's webinar with all registrants, and we look forward to seeing you again on our next webinar soon. So thanks again, and speak soon.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.